Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors was released in 1987 and was directed by Chuck Russell. The story was developed by Wes Craven and Bruce Wagner, and it stars Heather Langenkamp, Patricia Arquette, and Robert Englund yet again as Freddy Krueger. This film takes place after the events of the first film. We see Nancy Thompson as an intern as a psychiatrist that is studying dream therapy, and while at this facility, she comes in contact with Kristen, who has a dream power where she can bring others into her dreams. But there's also a monster in her dreams, Freddy Krueger, and Freddy has been taking out the kids one by one at this facility. So it's up to Nancy and the group of teens to take down Freddy or die trying. This is a film that I watched a ton as a kid. This is my second favorite in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and it's a film that I rewatch at least twice a year. So needless to say, I love this film. The story and characters are not only engrossing, but they also help to further the mythology and the lore around Freddy Krueger. And we see that these group of kids that are put in this psychiatric facility are the last remaining Elm Street children. So Freddy is taking each one of them out to even the score. I love the way that the story is connected with the original film. As much as I have fun with that second film, this film feels like a real continuation to that first film. And by the end of Dream Warriors, it feels like a concluded story. It's so great seeing Heather Langenkamp back as Nancy Thompson. Patricia Arquette as Kristen is also great. I love the big sister relationship that Nancy has with Kristen and how protective she is of not only Kristen, but also the rest of the kids. And speaking of the teens, I really like these characters as well. They're fleshed out enough to where they don't feel like cardboard cutout characters, and each one of them has their own distinct superpower in the dream world. And of course, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger is incredible. I feel like his character hits that perfect blend of horror and dark comedy, to where his one-liners don't become cringe-inducing. The dream sequences are by far my favorites out of the franchise. They feel both horrifying and fantastical. There's that great sequence of Philip being used like a puppet. That was a sequence that always freaked me out as a kid, and it still makes me wince to this day. Obviously, the most well-known kill from this film is where Jennifer gets her head slammed into the TV, and right before that happens, Freddy says that iconic line,
"Sit, Jennifer, your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch."
And actually, that line, "Welcome to prime time, bitch," was ad-libbed by Robert Englund. I also really liked the dream sequences for both Taryn and Will, but I wish that there was a bit more in those sequences, or even having two of the characters team up. Later on in the film, we have Nancy, Kristen, Kincaid, and Joey all working together, and I love those scenes. Those are a lot of fun. These are also probably my favorite set designs and practical effects of the series. The set design and lighting really helps to differentiate the real world versus the dream world, and we get it in different levels and phases, where some dream worlds will look a little bit more like reality and others will look more fantastical and kind of dungeon-like. As I said earlier, the practical effects in this film are my favorite out of the series, like with Freddy and the needles on end of his fingers and then injecting them into Taryn's arms, the giant phallic-like Freddy Krueger coming out of the floor and trying to eat Kristen, as well as the awesome chest of souls that Freddy shows off. That still looks so fantastic on screen. And last but certainly not least, we gotta talk about the soundtrack, specifically Dokken and their songs Dream Warriors and Into the Fire. I still play these songs to this day, they still rock, and I can't help but get nostalgic. So with all of that said, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors gets an instant classic. I think this film is absolute perfection. It's the best sequel in the entire franchise. It ties up the story from the first film really well, and I consider it a part of an unofficial trilogy of the first film, Dream Warriors, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support the channel even more and get your name in the opening credits, become a Patreon today. Link is down in the description below. Thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
You should listen to your mother.
God damn it, Kristen, you ruin everything. Every time I bring a man home, you spoil it. You know what your shrink says? You're just trying to get